Welcome back, guys, to the Great Ace Attorney 2 Resolve. Last episode, on continuing our investigation of the experimentation stage, we found a weird tool, touching it in angering Gregson, who asked us to move on with the forensics team arriving. Heading to find Herlock Sholmes, we came to Madame Tusspells' Museum of Waxworks, witnessing scenes of famous murders as a great detective lurked to make some more money. With something going on within the museum, it looks like we are heading for a great deduction. I must confess, I peeked behind the curtain earlier. The Tusspells special exhibit is a very bleak graveyard scene indeed. And yet, somewhat surprisingly, the waxwork killer one would expect is nowhere to be seen. What does strike one, however, is the portly gentleman lying peacefully on his back on the floor. Well then perhaps, Mr. Sholmes, that man on the floor is the ruthless killer himself. I'm afraid not, my dear fellow. He's a perfectly ordinary London gentleman, not even a waxwork, in fact. What? As skillfully made as these waxworks are, they are always distinguishable from real humans. So, allow me to present my two conclusions. The first is that a sizable business transaction has been taking place in this special exhibit. Why? Why would you say that? And the second is that the aforementioned transaction is a link to a serious crime. Ah! She looks as pale as candle wax. I don't understand. So, Madame Tusspells, as you've agreed to my fee, you shall now have the pleasure of seeing this famously great detective and temporary exhibit at work. It's a great deduction indeed. The game is afoot. Topic 1. Waxworks Fate. To begin with, we must ask ourselves what exactly is afoot here in this museum. The answer is revealed by the bundle of banknotes protruding so helpfully from your bag. In my estimation, some £200. That is all my own money. So what does this large sum of money reveal? Not as much as the involuntary glance you cast, it would seem, Madame Tusspells. Yes, the answer lies where your eyes now fall. The significance of the £200 is revealed by that public notice. Or not. Waxwork for sale. Your business has hit hard times, it would seem. In short, who sold the infamous killer, the centerpiece of your special exhibit, for the sum of £200. No! Now, let us explore the next curiosity with which we are presented. Who is the portly gentleman stretched out so peacefully on the floor? It would appear the man has suffered a severe shock, the cause of which is clearly known to you. Unfortunately, madame, keeping secrets does not appear to be your forte. What dealt the man such a shocking blow was, of course, the £200. It would appear that you twisted this gentleman around your little finger most effectively. What are you suggesting? He rashly agreed to purchase the waxwork for the sum of £200. Only when he came to hand the money over did it occur to him what an extortionate amount he was paying. But the money was no longer in his hands. And the result? The scene we see before us. He collapsed in shock. Yes, the killer in this special exhibit fetched a killer price. We can only pray that the gentleman's dreams are not plagued with regret. Conclusion, sold for cash. Topic 2, waxwork location. The question that arises then is what has become of the waxwork that changed hands? Let us consider that problem for a moment. You cannot possibly... What immediately strikes me about this conundrum is the young man standing over there. Who is this fellow? To find the answer, we need only observe his neckerchief. such as is worn by policemen as a secret sign to fellow members of the force that a crime is being perpetrated. Yes, this young man is an undercover policeman, currently investigating this museum. I know him well, in fact. It's Sergeant John Clay. What are you talking about? The man's quite a celebrity. He received triple accolades at last year's policing awards. But... Next, we turn our attention to the old man sat before him with a particularly unsightly visage. I've been watching closely and he hasn't moved a muscle. Almost, in fact, as if he were a waxwork. But you... Your reaction only confirms my suspicions, madame. I notice it at once, of course. Observe. The telltale sign that instantly proves whether or not this old man is a waxwork is the obvious price tag. Threepence? A tragically low price, you might say. Or perhaps the going rate for aging waxworks riddled with cracks. And yet you sold it to the portly gentleman for an exorbitant £200. The sort of plucky behavior that's sure to attract the attention of Scotland Yard. Isn't that so, madame? I do not... Yes, the waxwork you sold has already been seized by the police and remains in their custody as we speak. The old man must be reunited with his grave in the special exhibit, and not a moment too soon. Discovered already? Thus concludes Herlock Sholmes' Great Deduction of this horrifying puzzle. I see I've stunned you all into silence. You have, Hurley, you have. And you've obviously upset this young lady in the process. Her cauldron looks awfully hot. If I could just bring up 1 point, Mr. Sholmes. Ah, the notorious Naruhodo 1 point. I'm all ears, my dear fellow. According to your deduction, then, the special exhibit featured this old policeman. So that would mean that he's the particularly ruthless murderer, wouldn't it? The killer policeman, Ottermole. Sorry? It was a mysterious series of murders that rattled the capital only last year. The police rushed to the scene every time, only to find the culprit had disappeared into the ether. And it turned out the culprit was a policeman himself, a senior officer by the name of Ottermole. So you mean that's who the sinister-looking old man there is supposed to be? Indeed. It's a particularly grim face, is it not? Unforgettable, in fact. Yes, I remember that odious countenance only too well. But is £200 a lot of money for a wax model? It would be enough to afford one of the latest steam carriages if that puts things in perspective. So it is quite a lot then. Is there anything else you wish to add before I melt you down? That bubbling wax is looking more and more ominous. The smell of all that molten wax is starting to worry me. Mr. Sholmes did more or less just accuse her to her face, so... I think I might have to call on your assistance here, Iris, if that's alright. To make some minor corrections to the Great Detective's Great Deductions. Of course it's alright. We'll soon set things straight. Well, let's get started then, shall we? Before Madame Tusspells vents her anger. Just what I was waiting to hear, my dear fellow. So, Madame Tusspells, in accordance with our agreement, you shall now have the pleasure of seeing this famously great detective and temporary exhibit at work. Course correction time. So the Waxworks Fate, which was sold for cash. To begin with, we must ask ourselves what exactly is afoot here in this museum. The answer is revealed by the bundle of banknotes protruding so helpfully from your bag. In my estimation, some £200. That is all my own money. So what does this large sum of money reveal? Not as much as the involuntary glance you cast, it would seem, Madame Tusspells. Yes, the answer lies where your eye is now full. The significance of the £200 is revealed by that public note. Notice. She definitely looked in this direction, it's true. But I'm not sure she'd sell any of her waxworks, even for £200. Oh, she must pour her heart and soul into making them, don't you think? Over and above the wax. If it were me, I wouldn't sell them for anything. For that much money, I would, but it sounds like that makes me a bad person. Well, anyway, I wonder if the £200 could have some other significance. Let's follow that furtive glance again and see if there's anything else that could explain it. Have a look around, shall we? It's a portly man. It seems this well-dressed gentleman is alive after all, just not alive and kicking. He's not a waxworker or a model of a mass murderer. I'm not sure I'd pay £200 for him. I don't think the man's up for sale. Well, anyway, it was a silly place to put him. Other museum visitors could easily trip. I don't think the man was put there on purpose either. The number 139 doesn't matter much. What does the public notes actually say? Waxwork for sale. Would anyone really buy models of mass murderers? I think it says more than that. I think I'd rather have £200 in my pocket. Exactly. You could buy one of those brand new types of steam carriage. That's what I'd spend it on if I had it. No question. Oh, I'd buy all the herbs in the world. There must be another explanation for the money. We need to keep looking. Nope, I can move. There we go. I was trying to move the other way. What's that note doing pinned on the wall there? Ah, yes, I see. Dear Madame Tusspells, we've taken the prisoner from this room. The price for his safe return is £200. Have the money ready by noon on 23rd of October. What? This is... It's just like the sort of thing that's left behind when someone is kidnapped. Yes, it's a ransom note. Exactly. A ransom note is found. Interestingly, I'm filming this episode specifically on the 22nd of October, which is where we're at.
Take that!
The significance of the £200 is revealed by that ransom note. Quite so, we must congratulate these criminals on their inventiveness abducting a waxwork. £200 is no small ransom fee, yet we clearly intend to pay it. The model in question has special importance, so I put together all the money I have. In summary then, the £200 you have in your handbag is ransom money. Now, let us explore the next curiosity with which we are presented. Who is the portly gentleman stretched out so peacefully on the floor? It would appear the man has suffered a severe shock, the cause of which is clearly known to you. Unfortunately, madame, keeping secrets does not appear to be your forte. What dealt the man such a shocking blow was, of course, the £200. So if the waxwork was kidnapped, where does that leave us in terms of who this man is? We could just ask him when he comes round. I think the point of this exercise is to understand the beauty of the deduction process, Iris. Yes, you're right. Hurley's trying so hard, we mustn't let him down. Well, there's little doubt that he suffered a shock. That much seems clear. But in that case, what's Madame Tusspells trying to hide? Let's have a closer look around. It's never where we're looking specifically. I think actually to look at first of all matters. Why is your hand down here? Nice long hair braid. I love how we can rotate to see these people as well. I'm sure it's not the long hair, probably the hand that's being hidden. Madame Tusspells has very long hair, doesn't she? Yes, but you couldn't tell looking at her from the front. You know, it looks rather like a whip, don't you think? The sort of whip that could have floored the gentleman with a single crack. That seems a little far-fetched, even for you, Runo. Yes, this hand of Madame that really does not match skin tone. Aha! You can clearly see even more from here. It's just Madame Tusspells' right hand, isn't it? Yes, it must be. I can clearly see her left hand after all. Oh, but wait a minute. This is a left hand as well, look. Don't say such creepy things, Iris, please. And it seems very stiff, too. In fact, it's really hard. You mean it's made of wax? Is indeed something that's being hidden, so I'm assuming this is the thing. It's the hidden thing. What dealt the man such a shocking blow was, of course, the waxwork hand. Indeed, with a solid waxwork limb, one could deliver a very substantial blow. How could you? The hand protruding from the bottom of your cape. It ought to be a right hand, but closer inspection reveals that in fact it's a left hand. Ah! That's not the thing that I got. And somewhat masculine as well. In other words, it does not belong to you, madame. It is the hand of a waxwork model. Yeah! Not a hand, it's an arm. Some of the visitors to my museum can be troublesome. They meddle with the exhibits and cause damage. So you mean that, Yes, this gentleman saw fit to try to remove it as a souvenir. No small keepsake. Like taking a whole branch of a cherry tree when you go to view the blossoms. I'm afraid I had to teach the man a lesson. You confronted the man and tried to take the arm back. And the result, the scene we see before us, he was knocked unconscious. A point we may need to revisit later, but for the time being, we have our conclusion. Yes, the killer in this special exhibit has been kidnapped. Sure. Okay, the waxworks location, discovered already. I'm confused. The question that arises then is what has become of the waxwork that changed hands? Let us consider that problem for a moment. You cannot possibly... What immediately strikes me about this conundrum is the young man standing over there. Who is this fellow? To find the answer, we need only observe his neckerchief. According to Mr. Sholmes, the yellow neckerchief is assigned to have a policeman that some crime is underway. A way of communicating with his colleagues without revealing his identity, yes. It's a secret that's closely guarded by Scotland Yard. That Mr. Sholmes didn't hesitate to give away. Well, uncovering secrets isn't any true detective's nature, of course. Right. Anyway, judging from Madame Tusspells' reaction to Mr. Sholmes' deduction, I think perhaps we might not have identified the man quite correctly. Well, yes. What the? The man has a stub sticking out of his shoulder where his arm should be. Well, that settles that then. Right, this isn't a real person at all. His entire arm's been ripped off from the shoulder down. His arm's been... Of course, that ties in with what we just found out. I guess this is exactly what we're going for then. I want Sholmes to react like, oh my god! His arm! Who is this fellow? To find the answer, we need only observe his shoulder stub. No such boneless human walks this earth, that I can assure you. In other words, the man standing here, the young Sergeant John Clay, is in fact defying all odds, a waxwork model. I seem to remember it was you who concluded he was a real person in the first place, Mr. Sholmes. He has become quite a celebrity in London, being the winner of no less than 3 policing awards last year. I simply had to make a model of the man. Naturally, what other explanation could there be? And it was this detective's arm that was pulled off by the man on the floor in the special exhibit, wasn't it? And next we turn our attention to the old man sat before him with a particularly unsightly visage. I've been watching closely and he hasn't moved a muscle, almost, in fact, as if he were a waxwork. But you... Your reaction only confirms my suspicions, madame. I noticed it at once, of course. Observe! The telltale sign that instantly proves whether or not this old man is a waxwork is the obvious price tag. A killer policeman called Ottomo, was it? Was he well known? He was all over the papers last year, but I can't say I know what he looks like. It's a very low price, though. Threepence isn't much money. Only enough for a few measly hours of gas in Mr. Garradeb's delightful lodgings, in fact. So this is a special killer taken from the special exhibit, is it? The waxwork that somebody stole from the museum and tried to ransom for £200. Is this crusty old killer policeman, Olimo? Really? Perhaps we should have a good look around again and see if another idea crops up. Got a price tag, we've got a scarf on the arm. 3 pence? It's a far cry from £200, isn't it? For threepence, you could buy it and put it on display in your room, Bruno. I think I'd rather not go to sleep being watched by an old man if it's all the same to you. This price tag does stand out, doesn't it? I mean, you couldn't even buy the helmet on his head for that much money, I don't think. I wonder what the price tag's really for then. Like, the scarf? I don't believe it! It's a secret sign that lets other detectives know some criminal activity is underway. Yes, it's a slightly strange choice of outfit if he was trying to go unnoticed. Ah, he must be a detective disguised as a policeman. Or a detective disguised as a waxwork model of a policeman. Doesn't look like he's clever enough to think of something like that, though. Perhaps you should try to be a little more polite about him, Iris. I see nothing. I'm not even on it. Look at this! The old man's tapping his foot like crazy. It's like, it's not Morse, is it? No. He seems to be fast asleep, though. He's not tapping his foot consciously, then. So you mean it must be a twitch? Never mind that. The point is, waxworks don't tap their feet. Oh, a twitch! And look at his arm, too. We've seen a scuff like that somewhere else around here, haven't we? I guess I'm pointing out specifically this.
Take that!
He's alive. I said one of these things don't look like the others. The telltale sign that instantly proves whether or not this old man is a waxwork is the obvious twitch. Even the most realistic waxworks do not exhibit a twitch. In other words, this splendid old man is in fact a genuine member of Scotland Yard. Slight shift in your choice of adjectives, then. And there you have it. Well, Madame Tusspells. Well, what? It was me who contacted the police and demanded that someone come in the first place. He is clearly fatigued. He is sound asleep. But then, what's this tag about showing a price of 3 pence? No doubt the price tag of the muffler, which the old Bobby purchased recently at a local market. And I presume you've observed the scarf tied around his arm. Does that not strike you, Mr. Nadahodo? Yes, the secret sign used by detectives to show that some criminal activity is currently underway. Of course, because, as you know, there has been just such criminal activity happening here. As you deduced from the very beginning, detective. So, it would seem that we finally arrive at the truth. The waxwork of the especially ruthless killer from the special exhibit has been kidnapped. And Scotland Yard are already investigating. But the model's whereabouts remain a mystery. Thus concludes Sherlock Sholmes' Great Deduction of this horrifying puzzle. Still a mystery. Elementary! All sorts of people visit my museum here. Men and women, young and old. Sometimes they drop in just for a short time on their way back from the pub. I welcome them all. But if anyone tries to damage my exhibits, I do not take it lightly. Anyway, your great deduction was even more enchanting than I had been led to believe. It was a pleasure, my dear madame. I'm gratified that you enjoyed the spectacle. And as for your rough customer, I've no doubt he'll regain consciousness shortly and return home. What concerns me more is the waxwork from the special display, if it was indeed genuinely abducted. Yes, tragically, it was. Then I would ask you to recount to us the events surrounding the stolen waxwork. In as much detail as possible, if you please. Very well. But after I have told you what I know, I must insist that you return to your work. The talents of a great detective could be put to better use, I feel, but as you wish. Tell us about the stolen waxwork. Tell us more about the stolen waxwork, please. It was some days ago now, when I came in here one morning. I immediately noticed that the waxwork was missing from the special exhibit here. It is your most prominent display, so that's why the curtains were closed. And I found the ransom note in its place. The culprit must have broken in during the night and taken it then. So this waxwork that was stolen, it was a model of some horrible criminal, I suppose. Of a particularly horrible criminal, in fact. The killer who left a more profound scar on society than any other, I would say. The Professor. Not a name I've heard of. So, Mr. Naruhodo, it seems the circle is complete. Sorry? The Professor case happened at around the time I was born, didn't it? Indeed it did, Iris. 10 years ago, a series of murders have rocked the capital. 10 years ago? Yes, at exactly the time that Baruch Van Zieks graduated from university, in fact. What? Surely he's not saying... So the big event that changed Mr. Reaper's life. As you've surmised, it was the Professor case. Who was the Professor then? It was a series of gruesome murders that had all of London gripped in terror a decade ago. After 5 victims were killed, the man was arrested. And put to death. And now he's immortalized here in wax for all Londoners to admire and enjoy. Though, of course, he happens to be absent at present on account of the abductions. But I don't understand. How is all this related to Lord Van Zieks? You must first understand, my dear fellow, why it is that the Professor earned such infamy. It was due to the victims he chose, some of Whitehall's finest. What do you mean, Hurley? Those murdered by the Professor were some of the highest members of the British aristocracy, members of the nobility, even royalty. It sent shockwaves through the country's administration. Members of the... wait, of course! What Professor Harebrained said! Lord Van Zieks is from a family with noble blood. Oh gosh! It was the 5th victim that led to the Professor's arrest. The last of the killer's prey was a young noble by the name of... Clint Van Zieks. No! I don't believe it! Van Zieks! I'm sure you can piece together the rest for yourself. In the wake of his older brother's murder, the young Baruch pursued a career as a prosecutor, and eventually became the Reaper we know today. I had no idea Lord Van Zieks had such a tragic past. Well, I'm afraid that's all I can say on the matter, for the time being at least. After all, I have work to do. As a waxwork exhibit. I'm afraid I shall have to excuse myself as well. Oh yes, of course. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Well, none of the predicted scenarios I've been analyzing involved you coming to visit me here. Huh? Ah. It's been too long. It really has. I'm delighted to see you, Baruch. It's been 10 years, and here we are, meeting in a prison of all places. I can't forgive myself for what happened to Mr. Asman. I just can't. I still can't believe it could happen. Tomorrow, the court will decide. Yes, I have a young Eastern man acting for my defense. He seems reliable enough, though. It was an accident. A terrible accident. He assures me he can prove it. I must warn you. Oh, I know. I've heard already. You're going to be prosecuting, aren't you? Yes. Since I've returned to England, I've heard lots of stories. Baroque, are you really? What? Never mind. I know that you have my best interest at heart. My friend is on trial. I wouldn't entrust it to anybody else. Of course, I fully understand. Thank you, Baroque. Until tomorrow then. I'll see you in court. Until tomorrow then. I'll see you guys in court as well. As we come to the end of another episode of the Great Ace Attorney 2 Resolve. So the old maid it is. Next time, I'll see you guys around for more. Bye-bye.